everybody. My name is Dian Taylor. I'm going to be presenting on getting started with Power Virtual Agents. But before we dive in, let me just do a brief introduction about who I am. Again, my name is Dian Taylor. I am a TMC Business Apps Director at RSM, and I'm also a Microsoft MVP. If you want to check out my website, feel free to do that at d365goddess.com or follow me on Twitter, connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also see the big QR code on your screen. Feel free to scan that and connect with me, and make sure you check out my YouTube videos as well. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what I'm going to be discussing today regarding Power Virtual Agents. So we're going to talk about what it is exactly, right? How you can get started with this, some of the PVA components, topics and trigger phrases, authoring Canvas, how that works, what that is, entities, and of course, I'm going to do a lot of demos. But before I jump in, I just wanted to thank everybody at DynamicsCon for having me again this year to be able to present on this topic. So thank you so much, everybody. Now, let's just go ahead and dive right in. So what exactly is a Power Virtual Agent? And you probably already know, you probably have heard about it in the community as well. So Power Virtual Agents is really Microsoft's version of a chatbot, right? So really what we can do with Microsoft's version is create these chatbots with very low to no code. And I'll talk about that a little bit as well. Right? Because Power Virtual Agents are really designed for everybody, right? So you don't need to be a coder in order to create a chatbot. So that's pretty exciting, right? Microsoft really developed Power Virtual Agents with 3 different audiences in mind. And you see the first one already on my screen. So you have your customers, and those are really the folks that are going to be interacting with your chatbots. So those can be your external customers, right? People that have some questions that they're going to ask about your chat to your chatbot, but they can also be your internal customers, right? Maybe you have employees that have some questions about HR topics, right? So that's really your first group. Then the second group, the second audience, I almost want to say, are really your subject matter experts, right? So those are the folks, for example, what I said earlier about HR, these can be your HR generalists, your HR coordinators, your HR directors, right? That really understand the topic that these folks are inquiring about. And then lastly, of course, you don't have to use code with Power Virtual Agents, but if you want, you could add some code as well. And that's where the IT administrators come in. I wanted to start by giving you a little bit of an example of what it looks like once we start to work with Power Virtual Agents. So that's kind of what you see on your screen here, right? We have this very simple graphical interface that we can use, I should say, to start building our topics with. And then what we can do as the bot is interacting with your customers, we can also store that data in the application, and we can even revert back to that during the conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and cover all of these things. But before I do that, I'm going to walk you through the process of how you can kind of start playing around with Power Virtual Agents in your own environments. So you can get a trial at https://powervirtualagents.microsoft.com. Make sure that you need a business email address because personal email addresses are not supported. You can just go ahead and start doing that, enter your information in, and then what happens the first time that you create or spin up that environment, then you're going to see that an environment inside will be created for your bot. And then obviously, if you want to create additional environments, you have the ability to do that as well. So once we get to that, then you need to go ahead and name your bot. You also need to select a language because we now have multiple languages that can be selected for these Power Virtual Agents. And then obviously, right, you select the environment where you want that bot to live. That's really all you have to do, right? You click on create and then you will see this screen. So now you just have to wait a couple of minutes, and that's really all that you need to do in order to get started. So at some point in time, a couple of minutes later, you're going to be able to see this screen here where it says, start exploring Power Virtual Agents. The system is still doing some things in the back end, but you can also, or you can already start to kind of move around there and see everything that's available inside of Power Virtual Agents. So once we get there, this is kind of what that home screen looks like. And it could look a little bit different because it keeps changing around. But you can see here that the navigation is very similar to what we're used to if you worked with Dynamics 365 sales or customer service or any of those modules. You'll notice that that navigation pane is also on the left-hand side of your screen. So it's, again, kind of that familiar experience that we're used to from Microsoft. So a couple of things that are part of Power Virtual Agents are, as you can see, topics, entities. We're going to be able to take a look at our analytics. We need to publish, and then we need to manage our bots, obviously. So I'm going to talk about all of these things today in this session. And once we're done, you should be able to just go ahead and spin up a trial and start building out your own bots. Now, let's talk a little bit about topics. What are topics? Topics are really conversation paths that allows your users, right, or your customers to have a natural flowing conversation with your bots. And when you are creating those topics, you're going to use the authoring canvas to set up those conversations. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Now, as you are creating topics, obviously you can have multiple topics in Power Virtual Agent. You also have the ability to turn those topics on or off. So if there's just something that you're still working on and you don't want people to access that yet through the bot, you can just go ahead and turn that off. Another nice feature within the topics is suggested topics. So if you are working on building a Power Virtual Agent and you have a website that is in an FAQ type of mode, right, where you have your questions and then your answers, you can actually import those topics right inside Power Virtual Agents. And I actually already did that, so I'm going to show you what that looks like as well. When you install Power Virtual Agents, you'll notice that you're going to see some lesson topics appear as well. Those are exactly that. They're just to kind of teach you and show you how you can build your own topics in Power Virtual Agents. So I would not recommend using them for your customers. Again, it's just some examples that you can take a look at to kind of see how some of those topics are being built. And then obviously related to topics, we're also going to have trigger phrases. And trigger phrases are really phrases or keywords or questions that the system can recognize to then send your customer to the correct topic. And that's why we can tie them to the topics. And that's kind of what you see on the screen as well, right? They're really used for topic routing so that when the person asks a question, so for example, hey, what is your policy on credit cards? If I want a company credit card, right? What do I need to do? When somebody then enters credit card, or how do I get a credit card of your organization, right? That then routes to that credit card topic. So that's how you can use that. And of course, there's also a little bit of AI involved with Power Virtual Agents as well. As people are engaging with these topics and as people are being routed to the correct topics, the system will actually learn which topics they need to route those customers to. So you'll notice that customers don't have to actually enter the exact topic or the exact phrase, I should say, in order to be redirected to the correct topic, because the system will learn as people are engaging with your chatbot. Now let's talk about the authoring canvas, right? This is really where you can enter your questions. You can also enter the answers, right? Maybe you have a list of answers that you want your customers to be able to choose from. You can do that. Then when people are actually selecting an answer or typing in an answer, you also have the ability to capture those answers in variables. And I'll show you that a little bit later in a demo as well. And on top of that, we even have the ability to perform actions. And this could be done with a little bit of development, but if you prefer not using that, then you can also use Power Automate with that. So what you can do is you can feed data from Power Virtual Agents into Power Automate, have that Power Automate flow run, right? That action run, and then feed data back into Power Virtual Agents as well. And a good example for this could be somebody that's inquiring about their order status, right? The system can ask, Power Virtual Agent says, hey, what is your order number? The person actually enters that order number. Power Virtual Agent queries the Dynamics 365 database and then gives back some details about that order. So that's a really good example. Now, here are some of the options that you have when you start to set up your questions and your messages in Power Virtual Agents. So you can see on the screen here, we have some formatting options there as well when we're setting up our questions and our comments, our messages. So you can see here, we can allow it to be bold, italic, you can have those bullet points as well. And you can even enter a link in there as well. So you can then, after a particular step, after a message or after an action or after a question, you can then add another step, so to speak, right? So I can ask a question, I can call an action, which could be that Power Automate flow. I can show a message, right? I'm not asking for additional feedback, I'm just showing a message, or I can even redirect to go to another topic. And then lastly, I can end the conversation either with a survey or I can transfer this to an agent. And I'll show you that a little bit later as well. Now, let's go into the demo here. I'm going to pull up my environment. And this is kind of what Power Virtual Agents looks like. But I'm just going to go ahead and show you the front end. And I'm going to go ahead and refresh my screen here real quick, because I'm just going to show you a very quick interaction that we can have with Power Virtual Agents. So I'm going to say, I like Star Wars. And I set up a little Star Wars topic here because I love Star Wars. So here you can see, hello, my little Padawan. I hope all is well with you. How are you planning to use the Force? Well, I'm going to go to the light side. So these are some of the options that I have, right, that I talked about. We can configure our questions, and then we can show some options that people can click so they don't have to type anything. Why do you want to join the light side? Well, you know what? I want to meet Yoda because he seems pretty cool. What I'm doing here is I'm actually in the back end, I'm triggering that action, that Power Automate flow that then fetches an image of Yoda, as you can see, and it's showing that in my chat, in my conversation. So the bot is saying he's a pretty cool green dude. We had lunch yesterday. Now I need to pick my weapon. So I can say I don't need a weapon. I want the green lightsaber, the blue one. Oh, I want to go with the polka dot lightsaber. Here we go. And what you see here is really what I talked about earlier, that we can save the responses that were entered by your customer. So now I'm just getting an overall, basically, right, showing me everything that I entered before. I want to get the polka dot lightsaber. This is what I have for you. You want to join the light side to meet Yoda. My partner requirements is the light side, and my weapon is the polka dot lightsaber. So that is a very quick way how you can interact, and some good examples of what I talked about before. Now let's go to the back end of that, right? Let's take a look at some of those topics. So I'm just going to go here to my Star Wars topic. I'm just going to go ahead and open that up. And what you'll see here when this loads, you'll see here my trigger phrases. And I actually typed in, I love Star Wars, and you can see that that's not in my trigger phrase. So it's starting to recognize some of the things that I'm saying because I have done and I've used this particular topic before. Now, if we go to the authoring canvas over here, you can kind of see, I'm going to turn this off here. You can kind of see where this started, right? Hey, my little Padawan, I hope all is well with you. How are you going to use the Force? And then I'm giving two options, right? Dark side, light side. And you can see here is my light side. And that's, if you go down, why do you want to join the light side? Well, I either want to meet Yoda, or I want to become a Jedi. I can't even speak today, right? So that's kind of how that flows. Now, if you guys have any questions at any point, feel free to enter them in the chat. I would love to talk to you guys about how some of these things work, how to set that up. So continue on to put your questions in the chat. I wanted to let you know that obviously the bot doesn't follow that dialogue script blindly. It uses all of the information that it has to decide whether it should ask a question or if it should just skip that question. And I'll show you that in a demo a little bit later as well. So you can configure that as well, right? You can see that on the screen. If the user has already provided a particular response to a question, then we can just skip over that question, right? There's no need to keep asking the question if that question was already answered by the user. Now, another thing that's part of the Power Virtual Agents components are entities. And you want to use these entities because for the bot to actually work the way it should work, it needs to be smart, right? It needs to understand what people are saying. And that's how we can use entities. So the system comes with a whole bunch of automatic system entities, right? And what that can do, it could actually recognize the data that people are entering. So you can kind of see here, right? Temperature, if I'm entering it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit outside, then the system knows, oh, this is regarding temperature. So I only need to store part of that entire sentence that they typed in. You also see here point of interest, right? I want to climb Mount Everest. Right? So it knows that this is a point of interest. So it's only going to store that relevant data. It's the same thing with if you want to ask a question about an email address, you can mark that answer as an email address. What happens if the Power Virtual Agent asks for, hey, what is your email address? And the customer types in, my email address is whatever at email.com, it will only store that email address because of that entity that we have defined for the question. Now, we can also create our own custom entities. They're just a little bit different from the system entities. Our own custom entities are more of like a group and a list of records that we can define. If you noticed, I actually have an entity in my system that I defined as a Star Wars entity, and anything related into that is obviously related to Star Wars. So it's going to be easier for the bot to understand when people are entering information if you group them in an entity. And the other thing is if people are kind of fat fingering their responses, it's going to be easier for the bot to recognize those mistypes as well. So here you can kind of see that I entered an entity for lawn concerns, and I have brown spots, I have lawn paths, fertilization, etc. Again, grouping these items together so that the bot more easily understands, right, what he's looking for. You also have the ability to turn on smart matching. That's kind of what you see here, right? Really enabling that bot's understanding of that natural language. And again, this is kind of helping with misspellings, grammar variations, obviously, and words that have, as you can see on the screen, similar meanings. Now, we also have something that's called synonyms, right? So you can enter synonyms for a particular word. So again, kind of helping the bot to understand what these customers are trying to type in as they're conversing with your bot. So all of this works together, right? And makes the bot obviously a lot smarter. All right, let's go ahead and do another demo here. I'm just going to go ahead and pull up my Power Virtual Agents. Let's first take a look at the entities here, right? You can see here a lot of pre-built or system entities over here, right? You can see country and region, email. This is the one that I was talking about earlier. And then you can see here are my lawn concerns items. Let me go here to Star Wars. And you can see here all of those items that I was referencing in my bot earlier: dark side, light side, red lightsaber, cis sword. Like all of these items are part of that entity that I created. Now, let me just go back here to my topics. Let me go back to my Star Wars topics, and I'm going to go directly into my authoring canvas. And I will show you how we can use some of those entities. So basically, when you create a question, you have the ability to identify the type of question that is. So I can say, hey, this is a multiple choice type of question. This is an age type of question. So this is where you define, right, the entity, what the bot is looking for, right, in that question. So what I've done, as you can see, I actually selected my Star Wars entity. And then what I can do is I can pick the options that I want to show for this question. So I don't have to show all of the items in the list, right? So that's kind of how that works. Now let's go back here to my lawn topics. And I thought here it is. I'm going to again go directly into my authoring canvas. And what I'm going to do here, because as we're going and as we're testing these topics, you can do that on screen. As you can see, here is my test bot, right? So for example, I'm going to say my garden has yellow spots. I can type that in. And when you are testing this, you can kind of see here on the right-hand side exactly, right, what the bot is doing. So it recognized the trigger phrase. It then asked that question. And now I can pick from brown spots or weeds, right? You can also see, if I click here on my variable watch, we can kind of see the name of some of these variables as well, right? So the response to this question is saved as a concern. That's the name of that variable. So whatever the customer refers to or puts in there to that question, I'm going to save that response as a variable. And again, right, I just renamed that to concerns. Now let's do this again. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to enter here. I have weeds in my garden. And as you can see, it just jumped over this question, right? It didn't even show me that question. It jumped immediately to this condition where I said, oh, there's something wrong, right? I have lawn concerns. So that's kind of how smart the bot is by using all of these different things that I talked about earlier. Now, the other thing, let me see here. Here's the mini map that you can also kind of bring in, right? To kind of see, you can move this around as well. But I also wanted to show you here that we can now see what the customer answered, right? In that concern variable, right? You can see here, the response to this question is called concern. So it already recognized that the concern was regarding weeds. So you can kind of see where it's following, where it's storing that data. So now it's saying, please provide me with your email address. So I'm going to say my email address is @hotmail.com. And look at what it's doing, right? For that email question, please provide me with your email address. It's only storing here this information, right? Not my email addresses. It's just grabbing that email information. All right, let's go back here to the deck. And again, if you guys have any questions, make sure that you enter them in the chat. I would love to answer some of those questions you guys have. Now, the other thing we can do, and we kind of talked about this a little bit in the beginning, is we can enable the bot to also act on behalf of our customer. Well, what do you mean by that? This is what I talked about earlier. We can use Power Automate. We can create Power Automate flows, call those flows from within that bot, and then have the customer perform actions right through the bot. You could also build in authentication in Power Virtual Agent, right? Because you don't want, for example, somebody else to cancel somebody else's order, right? So you can do stuff like that as well. We already saw that we can skip questions, right? If that information has already been given by the user earlier, and that could make it very interesting, right? Because now we're not constantly asking for the same questions. Now, another thing that I want to show you guys later is that handoff to Omnichannel for customer service. And what that is, Omnichannel for customer service, it's an add-on to Dynamics 365 customer service. And that integration, I almost don't want to call it an integration because it's really just a couple of clicks and boom, they are integrated or connected. If you're not using Omnichannel for customer service, there are some other generic live chat providers that you can integrate with as well. And Microsoft has a list. If you Google that, you're going to be able to find the list of providers. Now, Power Virtual Agents obviously also has a full list of analytics and charts and everything. You can kind of see that on here. I don't want to spend too much time on that because that kind of makes sense, right? I'd rather spend some additional time on doing some more demos with you guys. But this is really kind of showing you, right, the summary, the customer satisfaction with those chats, and also the sessions, right? Also, you can see here, there's some escalation rates on here as well. Some abandonment rate drivers, if there are certain topics that are being abandoned by some of those customers, maybe we need to make some changes to that, right? So this is kind of showing you how you can do some of those things. And it is time for another demo. So let's go back to my environment. And what I'm going to show you here is how we can use Power Virtual Agents with Power Automate. So I'm going to have Power Automate perform an action for me. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to say, load my demo scripts. And then it's going to ask me, this is a demo conversation. Do you want us to contact you later? And I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to put in some information. My first name is, let's say, Harry Smith. Whoops. And then my email address is Harry Smith 1005. Oops, that's a little more than 1005 at gmail.com. And there you go. Somebody will contact you within 2 business days. So what actually happened in the back end is the system looked for this email address in my database to see if I already had a record with that email address in there. And since I didn't, it actually used Power Automate to create a lead in Dynamics 365. So let me go here to my advanced find. And I'm going to look for leads. And I'm going to look for leads that were created today. And let's take a look at those results. And here we go. Here's Harry Smith. And this was that lead that was just created by Power Automate. And that's why Power Virtual Agents also said, hey, somebody's going to contact you within 2 days. Right? So this can then flow into some automatic assignments. You can see here, here's my lead, first name, last name. We have the email address. And I also have this topic shown as, excuse me, a bot inquiry. So that's how you can use Power Automate with Power Virtual Agents. Now, the other thing that I can do is I can actually query the database on something. So I'm going to say here, yes, rate your experience. This was just excellent. Can I help you with anything else? No. Thank you for chatting with me. Bye. So let's open up another Power Virtual Agents window here. And I'm going to say, I need a job. So you can see here now it's not sure where to direct this person to. So these are topics. So which one do you want? I'm going to say, I'm going to go to recruiting, the recruiting topic. I hope you're doing well. I will help you with your inquiry. Have you applied before? I'm going to say yes. Has your resume been updated in the past 6 months? I'm going to say yes. And then it says, please enter your email address. So I'm going to say, there you go. Let's go ahead and enter that. And what it's doing right now is, again, it's launching that Power Automate flow, and it's querying for a lead or a contact record in Dynamics 365. And you can see here, it found my email address related to, I believe this is a contact, and it's asking me, are you this person? Yes, this is me. And thank you very much. Somebody will contact you within the next 3 business days. So what happened here is the system found a contact and then added a task to be contacted, right? To contact that person within the next 2 days. So that is how that works in Power Virtual Agents. So let's go ahead and move through the next slide. Now, obviously, once you build your bot, you need to publish your bot, right? And these are all the different places where you can publish your bot. You can put this on a custom website. We already get the demo website, as you saw earlier. We also can put it on a mobile app, on Facebook, on Microsoft Teams. And this list usually grows a little bit as well. So make sure you check it out in Power Virtual Agents as well. Now, the demo website, that's what I've been showing you guys, right? This is really not for your customers, right? This is really kind of to try this out. So what I would recommend is as you're building those topics, give that URL to the demo website to some of your coworkers so they can test out your bot. You also saw on there that there are some sentences on there. Hey, try this, type this, right? So you can configure that as well. You can change those sentences on there and that welcome message as well. Now, if you want to actually publish this on a custom website, that can be done through an iframe, right? So this could be customer facing or internal facing, right? You can put it on SharePoint or Teams. SharePoint is a little bit more complicated. You used to be able, I believe, to just plug it on there, but unfortunately, you can't really do that anymore. So you need a little bit of development for that. But again, you can put it in many other places where it's really no need for any customizations. So you can see here that this allows you, you can find this, by the way, in Power Virtual Agents, and this allows you to copy that code and then to plug that into your website or your Power Apps portal or your custom portal, right? That's kind of what I did there as well. And then, of course, we already talked about this a little bit. You can also have that handoff, right? Maybe your customer is talking to your bot, but is not really getting the information they want, or maybe the bot doesn't have the right answer to their questions. So what you can do then is kind of do that handoff to a live customer in Omnichannel for customer service. So I'll show you that in a second as well. I just have a few more slides here. I wanted to also kind of talk a little bit about system fallback, because during a conversation, Power Virtual Agents can maybe not trigger the appropriate topic, right? It doesn't know what to do. So it keeps going around. Did you mean this? No, I'm sorry. Did you mean this? So what you can do is you can configure that fallback topic, right? So that if the bot doesn't know where to direct them to, you can direct them to this fallback topic. That's what that does. Now, when you're building your bots, you can share them with others in your organizations, but here are some things that people can do, right? You can edit the bot, they can configure the bot. I mistyped something here. I'm not sure what I meant by that, but it's edit, edit's right over there. You can share it, you can publish it, and I don't believe if you share your bot, they cannot delete the bot. Make sure, though, that they have a Power Platform license for this, otherwise they can't do it. And here we are, demo number 4. We only have a few minutes left, so we're right on time. I'm going to go back here to my bots, and I'm actually going to log in here to Omnichannel for customer service. And here we go. This is just loading real quick. And I can close some of these windows over here. And now it's setting up so that I can actually get some of those conversations. And what I've done here while this is going, what I've done here is I basically put this bot on my website. So I'm going to close this out. So if you click here on publish, you can find here, this is where that demo website is, right? You could just click on there and it will take you there immediately. And you can see here, this is kind of where you can configure those channels, right? So if I click here on Go Channels and I click here on Custom Websites, this is that embed code, right? So I can copy that, I can email that. You can see here, there's some other options as well, but that's kind of where you do that. So let's make sure we are in Omnichannel. Yep, I am actually online, which is great. So this is my website where I entered that information. So I'm going to go ahead And I'm going to say, we're going to do let's chat. It's asking for my name. I'm not going to enter that. I have to enter my email address. And again, these questions are part of Omnichannel for customer service. So I'm just going to go ahead and submit that. Now I'm going to say Omni. This is my Omnichannel demo. Hi, I am a virtual agent. What can I help you with today? So let's try this again. Omni. Let's see here. This is the Omni demo convo. Do you want us to contact you? So now you can see that I'm actually forcing these people to actually enter some data. And do you want us to contact you? First name, I'm going to say, I don't want that. I want to talk to an agent. So I'm entering my agents. Oh, it's not letting me do that. So I'm going to say, hello. Email address, already entered that in there. There we go. No, you did not answer my question. Talk to an agent. And then it should tell me, there you go, we will transfer you to an agent. So let's go here to Omnichannel for customer service. And there you go. That's my chat request that just got pushed to Omnichannel for customer service. And I can go ahead and accept that. And now I can start conversing with my clients. And you can also see that it recognizes that person, right? Because I entered my email address. So again, any questions that you guys might have, please enter them in the chat so that I can answer them for you guys. And I also want to take this time again to really thank the folks at DynamicsCon for allowing me to present on this topic. Thank you guys so much. You guys have been great and wonderful. And again, I wanted to close with some of my contact details. Make sure you check out my website and my YouTube videos. I'm actually writing new articles. I try to do this once a week, a new video every week as well. And I would love to connect with you guys on LinkedIn as well. Thank you guys so much for attending my session. Have a great day, everybody. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining my session. And I wanted to see if there's any additional questions that I can answer for you guys. I know that Jim Lorig was actually asking me, does one have to be using the Power Platform portal to expose Power Virtual Agents? Well, at the end of the presentation, I was kind of going through the different channels that we can publish the bot to. So no, you don't have to use Power Platform portals to expose PVA. You can expose it there, but you can also expose it on a custom website. And that's actually also what I did during my demo. So let's see if there's any other questions. Somebody asks, can two people work on a Power Virtual Agent topic at the same time? Yes, absolutely. But you need to make sure that the bot that has those topics that you want people to collaborate on, that's actually shared between those users. And then obviously they need to have a license for that as well. You're welcome, Jim. What kind of license does internal users need? So when you are sharing, that's a really good question, by the way, Christian. So when you're sharing your bot, you're actually going to see a screen that's allowing you to give them two security roles. Environment Maker, which allows them to create bots, to manage bots, to use Power Automate. And then you also have Bot Transcript Viewer, where you can view chat sessions transcripts. So those are some of the security roles, right, that you can assign or not assign, right? That's really when you share that bot. But you also need to make sure that they have that Power Virtual Agent license, right? Otherwise, they cannot access anything Power Virtual Agent related. Thank you, Jeff, so much for joining. So that's definitely very important. You can always check what security roles they have. There's some additional security roles for Power Virtual Agents as well. You can just go into admin.powerplatform.com. Then you can go to users, and then you can open a user and you can see all the security roles that they have. And you'll see there's a couple in there for it. Most of them start with bot, so that's what they can use. And somebody else was asking, do you need to share the bot with a user for them to chat with the bot? So this is really when we're talking about testing, right? You saw me earlier initiate that chat from that demo website, right, that you get with each individual bot. So you can send that link to everybody. Anybody that you want to be able to test, they don't need to have a license for that. I would suggest to not send that to customers because, again, this is really just for testing and just to make sure that everything works correctly, right? And you would probably just try to follow each of those conversation paths in that particular topic so you can really do some end-to-end testing for that as well. And another question, can I share a bot with a security group? So we know that in the environments, we can set up the security groups and then we can just go ahead and add people to that security group. So unfortunately, you cannot share a bot with an entire security group. That's actually user-based. So you would have to share that with individual users and not a security group. For an internal org, Paul is saying, can you use AAD or other authentication to avoid having to collect user data in the bots? You can set up authentication. I haven't done that myself yet. Microsoft actually has a docs site on that, a docs website or whatever you want to call it on that, so that you can kind of set up that authentication. Now, if you want Power Virtual Agent to use Flow to kind of query your database, right? For example, I believe I wrote an article about how to query for orders in Dynamics 365. So people will put in the order number, and then they will get some details like, was it shipped or not? What's the status? All that kind of stuff. So you could even add, a check as well, right? In Power Virtual Agent to say, hey, who is this person? Does the email address relate to the contact that's related to this order or something like that? But obviously that's not authentication. Any insight about Edmundo? Hey, good to see you, my fellow coworker from RSM. Any insights about how pricing works when using a Power Virtual Agent? Yes, actually, I was thinking that would come up, so I looked it up. So the licensing cost is per tenant. So you get $1,000 per month for 2,000 sessions. And I know a lot of people are usually saying, wow, that's very expensive. But if you kind of think about the fact that Power Virtual Agents is going to take a lot of pressure off of your customer service agents and maybe even off your salespeople as well, right? By asking to be contacted, right? They don't have to talk to a salesperson. You saw that earlier in my demo. Then I don't think it's a very bad deal. Actually, think about having to pay somebody to do that, right? So again, $1,000 a month for 200 sessions. And you can, 2,000 sessions, did I say that okay? You can purchase an add-on license as well that will give you 1,000 additional sessions for $450 additional dollars per month. What happens if the limit is reached? That is a really good question, Jim. I have not had that happen to me because I'm on the pre-sale side, so I just demo. So that's a good question. I would love to know that as well. So I'm definitely going to find out for you and maybe post that on my website as well, because that's interesting. I'm assuming that Microsoft is just going to, turn it off or something. I know with Power Virtual Agents, you can also set whether or not, when that bot is active, so to speak, right? So maybe something like that will happen, that it just marks it as inactive, but that's really, we don't know yet. Okay, so let's see here. Another thing that somebody asked me about is which geolocations can Power Virtual Agents be created in? So where is it available, basically? So I looked up that list as well for you guys. So we have Asia Pacific, and again, Microsoft has a doc site where you can find all this information as well. But Asia Pacific, and then Australia, Canada, Europe. This is West Europe, like the Netherlands, and North Europe, Ireland, France, India, we have Japan East, so Tokyo and Saitama. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. And then Japan West, which is Osaka. And then we have South America, Brazil South, and let me see here. So it says here, as there is only one region in Brazil, customer data in Brazil South may be replicated to South Central US, Texas for disaster and recovery purposes. And then we have Switzerland. So Switzerland North, Zurich, Switzerland West, Geneva. And then in the UK, we have the UK South, London, and UK West, which is Cardiff and Durham. And then in the United States, we have the east of the US, Blue Ridge, Virginia, South Central US, Des Moines, West US, Quincy. But obviously, I'm actually located in Florida. So, and depending on if my location is there as well, right? That kind of depends on if I can access that. So those are some of the geo location. Darlene, great questions. Question, are there any pricing options for more than 2,000 sessions? I did not see it on the website, so I'm guessing you would just purchase the 2,000 and then just add on as you need. But I'm not sure. There might be different options if you have like a Microsoft agreement in place. So unfortunately, I am not an expert on licensing. I really focus more on functionality. But like I said, I did want to research a little bit for you guys in regards to, what the pricing was, et cetera. But that's going to be my guess. I'm sure we can kind of follow up with Microsoft on that one as well. All right, that is really all that I had for you guys today. I'm just going to give it one more glance at the chat session here. Thanks, Michael. I really appreciate you joining my session. I don't see anything else in the chat. Again, guys, thank you so much for joining my session. Make sure you check out my website. I have some additional articles on Power Virtual Agent on that as well. So that's d365goddess.com. And of course, a lot of other stuff. I do articles once a week, so new content all the time. And again, thank you so much, people at Dynamics Con, for having me once again. And have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.